It is 10 a.m. on the morning of November 7th, 1940. The air is cold, and the wind is howling to the Tacoma Narrows Strait in Washington state. A man named Professor Eppie Farquharson is standing alone in the middle of a massive suspension bridge. He is holding a motion picture camera, but he isn't filming the scenery. He is filming the ground beneath his feet. He is watching solid concrete behave like liquid. The bridge deck is rising and falling 5 feet every few seconds, heaving like a breathing chest. Farquharson isn't a tourist. He is an engineering expert from the University of Washington who was hired to figure out why this bridge was so unstable. He is standing there, in the middle of the danger zone, capturing the exact moment that modern engineering arrogance met the laws of physics. This is the Tacoma Narrows Bridge, known to the locals as the Pearl of the Pacific. It was a triumph of the era. It was the third longest suspension bridge in the world, stretching nearly 6,000 feet across the water. It had only been open for 4 months. It was supposed to be a symbol of man's conquest over nature, a structure designed to last for centuries. Instead, less than an hour after the professor stopped filming, the bridge would tear itself apart. It wouldn't fail because of a bomb or a massive earthquake or a hurricane. It would fail because of a steady 42-mile-per-hour breeze and a fatal design philosophy that prioritized aesthetics over safety. To understand why this disaster happened, we have to look at the mindset of the 1930s. This was the era of the Great Depression. Money was scarce and efficiency was king. In the world of engineering, there was a race to build things lighter, cheaper, and thinner. Before this era, suspension bridges were built like tanks. Think of the Brooklyn Bridge or the Williamsburg Bridge. They were heavy, clunky, and filled with deep steel trusses, those crisscrossing patterns of steel triangles that look like scaffolding. Engineers knew that wind was a threat, so they built their bridges stiff and heavy so the wind couldn't push them around. But then came Leon Moisseiff. He was the most respected bridge designer in America, a true superstar of the industry, who had consulted on the Golden Gate Bridge and the Manhattan Bridge. When the state of Washington needed a bridge to connect Tacoma to the Kitsap Peninsula, they turned to him. The state had a problem. They didn't have much money. A traditional, heavy bridge would cost $11 million. Moisseiff proposed a radical new solution for only $6.4 million. He claimed he could cut the cost nearly in half by using a new, unproven idea called the Deflection Theory. Deflection Theory was seductive. It suggested that if a suspension bridge was long enough and heavy enough, gravity alone would keep it stable. Moisseiff believed that the immense tension in the main cables would act like a tightrope, preventing the bridge from moving. Therefore, he argued, you didn't need those ugly, expensive trusses to stiffen the deck. You could strip the bridge down to its bare bones. So, that is exactly what he did. He designed the Tacoma Narrows to be sleek and beautiful. But mathematically, it was an outlier. Most suspension bridges of that length were at least 50 feet wide to ensure stability. Moisseiff made his bridge only 39 feet wide to accommodate just 2 lanes of traffic. Even worse, instead of using a deep open truss to let the wind pass through, he used solid plate girders. These were essentially solid walls of steel, only 8 feet tall, running the entire length of the bridge. The result was a structure that was incredibly long, incredibly narrow, and surprisingly shallow. The ratio of its length to its depth was 1 to 350. To put that in perspective, it was like laying a single piece of fettuccine noodle across a table. It was the most flexible bridge ever built in human history. Other engineers saw the blueprints and were horrified. They warned Moisseiff that the bridge was too thin. They warned that the wind would have nowhere to go. But Moisseiff was a god of bridges, and he assured the authorities that the aerodynamics were sound. He believed the wind would simply slide over the sleek surface like water off a duck's back. He was dead wrong. The bridge tried to warn them. It showed signs of instability almost immediately, even before construction was finished. In the summer of 1940, as workers were laying the concrete deck, they noticed something terrifying. Whenever a breeze kicked up, the floor would bounce. It wasn't a subtle vibration. We are talking about massive vertical waves. Workers complained of seasickness. Some of them actually had to chew on lemons to keep from vomiting while they were bolting the steel together. They nicknamed the bridge Galloping Gertie. When the bridge opened to the public on July 1st, 1940, this fatal flaw became a tourist attraction. Drivers would come from miles away to cross the bridge on windy days. The vertical bounce was so severe that if you were driving behind another car, you would see it disappear completely as the road rose up in front of you, only to reappear a few seconds later as the road sank. The toll plaza actually reported higher revenue on windy days because people wanted the thrill of the roller coaster bridge. But behind the scenes, the engineers were panicking. They knew this movement wasn't normal. Professor Farquharson was brought in to run wind tunnel tests, and he realized immediately that the solid plate girders were the problem. They were acting like a sail catching the wind. They tried emergency fixes. They ran thick steel cables from the bridge frame to 50-ton concrete blocks on the shore, trying to tie the bridge down. But the forces were so violent that the bridge simply snapped those cables like they were cotton threads. So why did it finally fall? What changed on November 7th? For 4 months, the bridge had only moved vertically, bouncing up and down. This is bad, but steel is flexible. It can handle bending. But on the morning of the collapse, something snapped. It might have been a cable band slipping or a momentary shift in the wind, but the motion changed instantly. The bridge stopped bouncing and started twisting. This is where the physics gets truly scary. This phenomenon is called aeroelastic flutter. It is very different from resonance, which is what many textbooks incorrectly teach. Resonance is like pushing a swing. You push at the right time and it goes higher. Flutter is different. Flutter is a self-feeding loop. Because the bridge had solid sides, it acted like an airplane wing. As the bridge twisted clockwise, the wind hit the bottom of the deck, pushing it up. Then the bridge snapped back and twisted counterclockwise, and the wind hit the top of the deck, slamming it down. The bridge was feeding energy into itself. The more it twisted, the more wind it caught. The more wind it caught, the more it twisted. It wasn't just moving, it was accelerating. The road was tilting at a 45-degree angle. The left side of the lane was 28 feet higher than the right side. No steel on Earth is designed to withstand that kind of torture. Trapped in the middle of this chaos was a man named Leonard Coatsworth, a local newspaper editor. He was driving his car across the bridge when the violent twisting began. His car was thrown sideways against the curb. He knew he was going to die. He opened the door and was thrown onto the pavement. The concrete was heaving so violently that he couldn't stand up. He had to crawl on his hands and knees for 500 yards. That is 5 football fields, while the road tore apart beneath him. He was bleeding, terrified, and watching suspender cables snap one by one, sounding like gunshots. Tragically, he had to leave his daughter's Cocker Spaniel, Tubby, in the back seat of the car. He tried to reach the dog, but Tubby was terrified and snapped at him. Coatsworth had to abandon him to save his own life. Tubby was the only casualty of the disaster. At 11:02 a.m., a massive section of the floor gave way. The main span crashed into freezing waters of the Puget Sound. But the story has one final, bizarre twist. After the collapse, the state of Washington went to collect the insurance money. They had paid premiums on a massive policy to cover the bridge. But when they contacted the insurance company, they were told the policy didn't exist. The local insurance agent, a man named Hallett R. French, had pocketed the money. He had taken the premiums, spent them, and never filed the paperwork because he assumed, like everyone else, that a massive steel bridge would never actually fall down. He was charged with grand larceny and sent to prison. The state was left with a pile of rubble and no money to fix it. It took 10 years to build a replacement. When the new Tacoma Narrows Bridge opened in 1950, it looked very different. It was wider, heavier, and most importantly, it used deep, open trusses that allowed the wind to pass right through. Leon Moisseiff's career was ruined. He died just 3 years later, broken by the failure, but his mistakes saved thousands of lives in the future. Because of the Tacoma Narrows, engineers immediately went to the Golden Gate Bridge and retrofitted it, adding stiffening structures to prevent it from suffering the same fate. We learned a hard lesson that day. In the battle between human aesthetics and the laws of physics, physics will always win.